A clutch of neat log cabins perch on wooded slopes, where there's room to park cars without them spoiling the scenery. Designed to sleep six, each cabin is angled to catch the most of the sun on its small veranda. When everyone had time to unpack and catch their breath, I asked one family why they'd felt it worth coming such a long way for such a short time.
Because Sweden always creates a picture of plenty of space and not a lot of people, and that's what we wanted to do for a few days in the outdoor, have the outdoor life.
And has the reality confirmed or contradicted your image of it?
Confirmed it.
We often go to Europe a lot, you know, which hotels and things like that, where here you can do exactly as you want and go back to nature, so to speak. Very nice.
What do you think of the standard of this particular holiday village?
It's a lot better than I thought it would be. I was a little bit anxious about coming up because of the cost involved, which was very, very small. I thought, you know, it was a little bit doubtful, but it's turned out exceptionally well.
The standard of these cabins is high. Newly built 4 years ago, they have gleaming pine furniture and everything spotless. Of the 70 cabins on site, 13 are kitted out for disabled people, which is good to know. There's a living dining room with convertible sofa, a slim kitchenette complete with cooker, fridge, a drying cupboard, and electric heating's included in the price. 2 tiny bedrooms have bunk or twin beds. Bedding and towels are also provided. The whole village is, in fact, superbly designed and well equipped, with a cafeteria open from breakfast time till late, a supermarket, laundrette, sauna and gym. On a short trip, you'd probably not bother to do much cooking for yourselves, but there's nothing to stop you coming here on a full-scale holiday any time in the summer. Packages of 10 days and longer are available too. Swedish people live for the outdoors. From the first breath of summer, they're out there rubbing shoulders with nature. And they make maximum use of their lakes. This one's about 60 yards from the Iseberg village. You can go fishing or hire a canoe. What else?
You'll find signs like these here, which indicate all kinds of marked trails to follow. But in fact, in Sweden, you can wander almost anywhere you please, because there's a law called allemansrätten, which virtually means everyone has a right to the countryside.
And very seductive countryside it is, lush and peaceful and chittering with bird sounds. If you want to walk in the woods with a purpose, this old water wheel's a sight worth seeing. Not very often that you see one still in working order. The little house is part of the Tullstorp open-air museum, although museum's a rather stuffy word for it. It's a series of old wooden buildings built at the turn of the century that have been restored and reused as workshops for a cottage industry. Simple processes of metalwork, like making nails, are carried on with the aid of Heath Robinson machines powered by the water. Antique looms turn out wire mesh for anything from garden riddles to tea strainers. What's especially nice about these workshops is they're not over-commercialized. It's typical of how the Swedes do things, always well and with quiet good taste. If you enjoy peace and quiet and the outdoor life, you may well find that a brief glimpse of this part of Småland gives you the appetite for a longer holiday next time.
I must say, it does look a remarkable bargain, but I wonder if 2 or 3 days is really enough.
Well, it is a taste of Sweden, but it is very relaxing. But I certainly agree that Sweden deserves longer, and you can go back for longer, as I said.
I always look upon Sweden as being rather expensive in terms of the cost of living.
In some ways it is, but interestingly, I walked around the supermarket attached to that holiday village, and I found only one item that was more expensive than my local
What
shop
was that?
here. Instant coffee. Not real coffee, but instant coffee.
Tell us about the price.
Well, that bargain break by Longship Holidays to the Iseberg village costs £55 per person. That's for 5 nights, 5 days rather, 4 nights. If 2 or more adults go, the car is carried free, as are children under 16. You can take 1 child free with each adult. The holiday is self-catering, and you spend 2 nights at the village and 1 night each way on the ship. The offer's valid from the 1st of May to mid-June and again in the autumn.
Now the travel news, starting with the attempts by tour operators to get bookings moving. Their offers of over 300,000 cut-price holidays have failed to find many buyers. Summer bookings are, in fact, almost disastrous.
The reasons for that slump are to be seen in a Gallup poll carried out for Travel News. The study shows that the old traditional booking pattern has changed and is still changing month by month. More later in the programme.
Attempts by Ilkeston Co-op to offer 1,000 holidays at knockdown prices at auction have been abandoned. The co-op chief says that tour operators and travel agents ganged up against him. They said he could not offer holidays below the brochure price.
Cyprus and Gibraltar have now been added to Poundstretcher's European programme. Return fares to Gibraltar start at £119 and to Larnaca in Cyprus £190.
Britannia Airways, a charter company, is starting a new scheduled service in May between Manchester and Palma. Fares start with the money saver at £115 return. Britannia hope to start a second scheduled service from Manchester to Malaga very soon.
British Rail, in a bid to beat the problem of overcrowding in the peak holiday time trains, is introducing compulsory seat reservations on a number of services. The reservations, which will in the main be free, say BR, will be mandatory on trains running to the West Country from Scotland, the North and the Midlands this summer.
People with a fascination for cities now find themselves very well catered for. They can just about take their pick. They can go anywhere these days. John Carter went to Istanbul to sample a short break holiday in Turkey, which is on the very edge of Eastern Europe and where Asia begins.
Byzantium, Constantinople, Istanbul. This city has borne 3 names, cradled 3 civilizations. Today, it's a city of 5 million inhabitants. For most of them, religion plays a vital part in their everyday lives. In Istanbul, you will find 38 synagogues, 110 Orthodox churches, and 500 mosques. Their domes and slender minarets dominate the skyline, providing this city with its distinctive look. They are physical evidence of a spiritual inheritance, and one of many reasons for coming to Istanbul, if only for a brief visit. If you're looking for a short break to a big city, there are literally dozens of places you can choose from.
Cities that can provide you with a wealth of art and history, fine old buildings and museums. Having said that, why come to Istanbul? Why travel all this way for just a few days? Well, the answer to that question, I think, lies all around me right now. For the appeal of Istanbul isn't so much the mosques and the minarets, the museums and the palaces, important though they are. The appeal is in the bustling everyday life of a thrilling city on the edge of Europe.
It's that bustle, that constant pressing flow of people that bears out the contention that this city is in Europe, but not of Europe. Dive into the web of streets that lies at the southern end of the Galata Bridge, and you'll quickly see what I mean. Here, around the new mosque, sprawls the spice market, a feast of colours and aromas that swiftly assaults the senses. Pyramids of produce, cinnamon and saffron and caraway, piles of fruit and nuts, some familiar, others not. Like any other visitor, I couldn't resist the place. After all, the prices are ridiculously low compared with what you pay back home in Britain. So, in I went.
Yeah, just half a kilo.
Half kilo, yes.
Merci. 800, is that? 900.
900.
I'll have to give you 1,000, sorry,
Thank
I've
you,
got the
Matthew,
right
thank
money.
you.
Okay. Still, it's very cheap, just the same, isn't it?
Yes, just £1.70 for a heavy bag full of dates, nuts and fruit.
It's not something you think about when you come to Istanbul, but it's a good little bonus.
Another good little bonus is the Hilton Hotel, one of 3 on which this particular short break holiday was based. A refuge from the noise and turmoil of the city, it stands in its own spacious gardens high above the Bosphorus. All its rooms have generous balconies with views over the city. They're air-conditioned and have private bathrooms too. The hotel has its bars, restaurants and coffee shop, but as the holiday's based on bed and breakfast terms, you'll certainly want to take advantage of what Istanbul itself has to offer. In this regard, do take a trip along the shore of the Bosphorus to Tarabya, once a separate village, now a suburb. It has dozens of first-class restaurants. The food isn't likely to come as a surprise, for they are well used to the tastes of foreign tourists. If you want, you can try the stuffed mussels or the cold chicken in walnut sauce, or you may prefer the excellent fish. Whatever you choose, you'll be eating in good company, for the restaurants are used a great deal by local people who are a friendly bunch and certainly know how to make an evening of it. Apart from the performers, you won't find many Turkish people in the city nightclubs, at least not in those that are listed in the sightseeing leaflets, the Istanbul by Night tours, which combine dinner in a restaurant with a nightclub visit for around £24. The shows are lively with folk dancing and traditional music, as well as the obligatory belly dancers. Not everyone's cup of tea, perhaps, but the nightclubs are there if you want them. In this ancient and fascinating city, there are certain sights that must be seen even on a short visit. Santa Sofia is one such place. Its main structure was completed in 537, but its huge dome had to be rebuilt as a result of earthquake damage and is more recent, 14th century. Having been a place of worship for Christian and Muslim alike, it's now a museum. Because the Turks built more solidly for God than they did for themselves, there are many ancient mosques to be seen. The Blue Mosque with its half-dozen minarets, and the Mosque of Suleiman the Magnificent, built in the middle of the 16th century. I was told that whereas English churches are supported by the collection plate on Sundays, mosques earn their revenue from the rents of shops and cafes built close by at the same time. Right opposite the Suleymaniye Mosque, I stopped at one of those cafes for a traditional glass of tea. Another tradition of Istanbul is to take a trip along the Bosphorus. From the water you get the best aspect of the city skyline with its fine buildings. This, by the way, is the Dolmabahce Palace, occupied by the sultans from 1853. These days, a museum. On the journey you'll see the modern sights too, including the bridge that links Europe and Asia. It's so much used that a second is to be built. Oh, it's tea time again. Another inescapable Istanbul tradition. At one stage, I thought it was the same fellow following me around.
I see. Thank you very much.
On the European bank, beyond the new bridge, are the walls and towers of Rumeli Castle. Until the Turks conquered the city, it was the largest and strongest fortress of the Middle Ages, designed to control the narrow straits. Incidentally, the boat in which you travel isn't laid on specially for tourists. It's just one of the regular water buses that take people to a variety of places on the European and Asian shores. Back in the city, on the south side of the Golden Horn, across the Galata Bridge and beyond that spice market, is another of Istanbul's remarkable institutions, the oldest and largest indoor marketplace in the world. It's a labyrinth of around 60 streets, housing more than 3,000 shops. Parts date from the 15th century, but it's spread relentlessly down the ages. It was here we met Joan and David Bartley, an English couple on a short break holiday. Persuaded to visit a carpet shop, they settled down to business. Over tea, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that a classic Turkish design?
Yes, that one comes from the Hareke. Do you know the Hareke?
No, where's that?
It is near of the Istanbul, about 70 to 90 kilometers.
Yes.
So that one is 270. How much is the small one?
Yes, that small one is 140, 45 to 1,000.
Girişinde de 145,000.
An encounter such as this is all part of the Istanbul experience. Later, I asked David Bartley for his impressions of the city. What did he think of its atmosphere, its character?
It's much more Asian than European.
But in fact, strictly speaking, we're still in Europe.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And it was quite fun. Then we went up the Bosphorus. We did stay on the Asian side for lunch, so we really felt that we had our feet on Asian shores.
What do you intend to buy to take back home?
The jewellery, I think, is interesting. I'm not particularly interested in buying carpets. We've been pursued by carpet sellers, and I think we've managed to get the message to them that we don't particularly want to buy them. They've tried very hard.
Like the Bartleys, I found the Turkish people to be friendly on the whole. When we were in Istanbul, there was evidence on every street corner of a military rule. High profile, but not oppressive, and, according to the Turks, in the process of easing off anyway. Topkapi Palace has been a museum for the past 60 years and is crammed with treasures. If you saw the film, you'll recognize the emerald dagger. Also on show is the golden ceremonial throne of the Sultans, the Ottoman throne, and the 86-carat gem known as the spoonmaker's diamond. Fabulous. The treasures of Topkapi are one reason for visiting Istanbul. So are the markets and the mosques, the museums and the palaces. But the city itself has an attraction that's greater than the sum of all those parts. A city where Europe and Asia, past and present, meet and merge.
Fascinating place to spend a weekend, isn't it? As John said, it's sort of in Europe, but it's not in Europe.
Exactly. Actually, I've been there many times myself, and each time I went, I found it more and more interesting. But it's some time since I was there. What does it cost now?
I don't know. We'll find out. A sovereign long weekend, 5 days, 4 nights at the Hilton, costs from £252. That's bed and breakfast, and includes scheduled flights to and from Istanbul. The holidays operate throughout the winter months, so there are only a couple of departures left during this month. But another series starts again on the 1st of November, which prices are not yet available, but they're not expected to rise by very much, if at all.
Tomorrow, officials of the Monopolies Commission are travelling to Ilkeston in Derbyshire to speak to the man from the co-op. Now, how does that affect you? Well, they're going to be talking about the price of package holidays. John.
Yes, the Commission are at present trying to decide whether what's called a complex monopoly exists in the holiday business, whether tour companies are acting against the public interest in the way they do business with travel agents. The man who stirred it all up in the first place is the man from the co-op in Ilkeston, Chief Executive Mr. Ken Scott. He's campaigned for a long time for freedom to charge whatever prices he likes in his travel shop and not the ones the holiday companies fix. Last Sunday, he was going to hold an auction of package deals, clear out the odds and ends from the brochures at whatever prices he could get. But the holiday firms would have none of it, and Mr. Scott's auction had to be cancelled. He reckons the big boys have got together to put the squeeze on him, to stop him and anybody else selling holidays at cut prices. His argument is that if he can do that and make a living, that's none of their business. Though the holiday companies claim it isn't as simple as that, Mr. Scott has an ally in the House of Lords. Lord Graham of Edmonton has asked if their attitude is in breach of the 1980 Competition Act and hopes for an answer next week. On the face of it, the tour company rules are a restraint of competition, but the final answer will have to come from the Monopolies Commission, and they're not due to report, would you believe, until the summer of 1986. By then, a lot could have happened. Indeed, it's happening now. A Gallup poll carried out for a travel trade paper confirms that long-established habits are being broken. We're booking our holidays much later, turning our backs on the traditional fortnight in high summer. There's a swing away from Spain, and more significantly, people under 35 are now inclined to travel independently rather than buy a package deal. Other surveys indicate that small firms are doing better than the giants, and holidays at home are booming as never before. It certainly looks as if we, the customers, are getting things our way. Now let's just wait and see what happens about those price-fixing rules.
In Britain, there are something like 2,000 miles of canals. Most of them are now used by pleasure boats of one sort or another. We went to the north of England to the Calder and Hebble navigation to join two families as they set off along the waterways of Yorkshire aboard a barge. The Transpennine waterway was thought to be one of the most important man-made navigation systems ever built in Britain. It linked Leeds with Liverpool, and in its length, these Bingley five-rise locks were certainly one of the wonders of the waterways. In only 100 yards, the canal level rises 59 feet through a complicated staircase arrangement. Built 200 years ago, it's part of our industrial heritage, and that's what attracted the Green and Smith families from Norfolk. They hired this boat and set off on their journey of exploration. The canals not only go through the old woolen towns of Yorkshire and the cotton towns of Lancashire, they also run into open country along the margin of the moors and the dales. It's 127 miles long, and not only does it often rise and fall through a whole chain of lock chambers, it also goes through tunnels and embankments, under bridges, and over spectacular aqueducts such as this one, the seven-arched Dowley Aqueduct over the River Aire. Saltaire was built by Sir Titus Salt in the 1850s. He moved his worsted mill from grimy Bradford to this new model village by the side of the river where they could enjoy the clean air. It's now a favourite calling place for the pleasure boats, and within just 100 yards of the bank, you can wander around this Victorian monument of high moral decency. Sir Titus built for his workers a library, a church, hospital, houses, schools, and a great social centre. But there was no pub, there was no beer house. Saltaire was for good, clean living. There still isn't a pub where passing bargees can satisfy their thirst. But this boathouse is the next best thing. Honky-tonk piano player and all. Breathe it softly. They now serve alcohol here. What would Sir Titus have thought? But what do they find attractive about all this?
I think it's really seeing 19th century Britain, partly, and also I think how careful they were to make beautiful buildings out of their industrial buildings. I mean, I think that's beautiful. Almost like Venice, really, sort of Campanile Venice.
These are the ups and downs of cruising through canals. The 91 locks do mean a spot of hard work for the crew, but I wondered, how difficult is it to handle one of these barges? It is, after all, almost as long as a cricket pitch.
This is when you get nasty little slipways like this one. Catch the stern of your boat as you go past and messes it all up. Or a bit of crosswind. It's a very good excuse.
The weather had, so far, been unkind, but the sun came out to heighten the colours of the barges.
Where's the Abbey?
There's the Abbey. There's the museum.
And we're going to go to the Abbey.
These two families hired a craft big enough for half a dozen or more people, so that they could enjoy the extra elbow room. For a narrow boat, it was surprisingly broad-shouldered and high-roofed. This is the master suite. The boats have showers, flush toilet, and central heating. This holiday allows you to enjoy quite a different kind of canal life from that of the old commercial barges for which they were built. You see these stone-faced backs of houses and tiny gardens backing the water. Old factories, no longer dark, satanic, and then the towns and fields that slide away on either side. You can either make a call or leave them in your wake. But it's not all industrial archaeology. there's ecclesiastical history as well. This is where the Smiths and the Greens had been planning to visit. Kirkstall Abbey. Completed in the 12th century, it must be Britain's finest monastic ruin. Built by the Cistercians and still standing to its full height, it's a unique example of their architecture. This nostalgic voyage into the past threads along a waterway edged with intriguing, lingering remains. On waters where hard-working families once earned their livings, other families now take their holidays. But even they have to do a bit of work as well. And as the Sussex slowly sinks down to rest, we say farewell to the waterways of Britain.
And so farewell. So that's obviously the last of your waterway reports.
I rather enjoy them. I've been surprised at the enormous variety of them too.
Well, you certainly seem to have enjoyed them, but I particularly found that one interesting because isn't it amazing going through all that industrial area that it is so attractive?
The nice thing is they've turned so many of the warehouses and the mills now into rather charming museums and restaurants and so on.
Charm is the word, it's lovely.
It is. Now, if you fancy a week along the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, the narrow boat that we feature was a Sussex class, and it costs from £268 in the low season, that's spring and autumn, rising to £425 in July and August. It does sleep 6, and the price is for the boat, not per person. It's self-catering, remember, and there are odd extras to pay for, such as the fuel for the diesel engine, parking your car for the week, and so on. Now, you can get details from Host Seasons or from your local travel agent.
And for those of you with CFAX who want the details of that and other things we've talked about in tonight's programme, you'll find them on page 185 as usual.
Well, next week in our final programme in this series, we visit the English Riviera at Torbay. We take a caravan across France and gather together a little collection of holidays that may surprise you. Until next Sunday, 5 minutes to 6. Good night.